A city asleep under golden lights. A limousine hums through the streets of Los Angeles, its reflection gliding along the glass walls of towering skyscrapers. The same city that once whispered dreams into the ears of a young woman now hums with the weight of time. Somewhere among these lights, an old story begins to breathe again. A story of love that once burned bright, faded with years, and now dares to return. The morning sun spills over Beverly Hills like liquid gold, touching every rooftop, every polished car, every palm tree that sways in the gentle wind. The city has changed, but its rhythm feels the same, elegant, restless, alive. The sound of heels clicking against marble floors echoes inside a tall glass building. Inside, Edward Lewis stands by the window, older now, his silver hair catching the light. He watches the city below, a silent observer of a life that feels too quiet. Success surrounds him, the company, the fortune, the reputation. But in the hush of his office, there's a strange emptiness, as if the air carries a name he has not spoken in years. His reflection stares back at him. The sharp suit, the composed posture, all the same. But the eyes tell another story. There's something missing, something time couldn't buy. The phone rings, breaking the silence. It's his assistant reminding him of the charity gala tonight. He nods without emotion, ends the call, and looks out again. For a moment, his eyes soften, almost as if he's searching for something in the blur of the streets below. Across the city, a woman wakes to another busy morning. Vivian Ward, the name once whispered in gossip, now spoken with admiration. Her home is warm, filled with the noise of life, phones ringing, papers stacked, laughter in the background. She runs a foundation now, helping young women rebuild their lives. There's a spark in her eyes, the same one she had all those years ago, but now it's steadier, wiser. She walks through her office, greeting everyone with a smile that lights up the room. Her walls are covered with photographs, faces of women she's helped, newspaper articles, and one old photograph of her standing in a red gown on a balcony. Smiling at the stars, she pauses there for a moment, her fingers brushing the frame. A memory stirs, the sound of laughter, the feel of wind in her hair, and a voice that once told her she was more than she believed. She smiles softly, but there's a flicker of something in her expression, maybe longing, maybe curiosity about a life left behind. The phone on her desk buzzes. A reminder pops up, Charity Gala, Beverly Hills Hotel. She exhales, half amused, half uncertain. Fate, it seems, still likes to play its quiet games. Evening descends on the city. Lights bloom across the skyline like fireflies waking from sleep. Cars glide through the streets, and the world seems to slow for a moment. Edward adjusts his tie in the mirror of his penthouse. He hesitates, almost as if asking himself why he's going at all. Maybe it's duty. Maybe it's loneliness. He walks out, the door clicking softly behind him. At the same time, Vivian stands before her mirror, a soft gold dress draped elegantly around her shoulders. She takes a deep breath, fastening a simple bracelet, nothing extravagant, but meaningful. It was a gift once, from someone who saw her differently. Her reflection smiles back at her, stronger now, yet touched by nostalgia. As the night unfolds, two separate lives begin to move toward the same place again, guided not by design but by destiny. The camera follows the lights of Los Angeles stretching into the distance, the hum of the city mixing with the soft melody of piano keys. In that vast web of streets and stories, somewhere love begins to stir again, quietly, patiently, like a secret waiting to be rediscovered. The night air outside the Beverly Hills Hotel hums with quiet luxury. Cameras flash. Cars pull up one after another, releasing guests draped in gowns and tuxedos. Music from a live orchestra floats from the grand hall, blending with laughter and the soft chime of glasses. Inside, crystal lights spill over a room filled with wealth and nostalgia, the kind of place where time pretends to stand still. But tonight, something different lingers in the air. Something that feels almost like fate. Edward Lewis enters the ballroom. Every bit the man the world expects him to be. Calm, composed, in touch, yet his eyes tell a quieter truth. A man who has lived many victories but carries one silent defeat. He greets familiar faces, nods politely, smiles when required. It's all routine, all practiced. But somewhere behind the crowd, behind the shallow conversations, he feels the faint pull of a memory. He can't explain it, but it's there, an echo from a past that never quite faded. Across the hall, Vivian steps inside, and the noise around her seems to fall away for a second. She stands tall, radiant, yet humble in her grace. Her golden dress glimmers under the chandeliers like sunlight trapped in silk. People turn to look, but she doesn't seem to notice. Her eyes are steady, her heart calm, until it isn't. Something shifts in her chest as she scans the room. Not nerves, not fear. Something older, softer. Recognition without reason. Their paths begin to circle each other unknowingly. She greets donors. He signs a pledge. She laughs with a friend. He checks his watch. The universe plays its silent game, weaving threads tighter with each passing second. Then it happens, not dramatic, not planned, just inevitable. Edward turns, and for the first time in over 3 decades, his eyes find hers. Time stops, not like in the movies, but in that strange, real way where your mind forgets how to breathe. Across the room, surrounded by people and noise, he sees the same spark. Softened by years, but not dimmed. Vivian feels the same. The music, the chatter, the light, all fade to a blur around the edges. Only that look remains. Neither moves at first. It's too much, too fast. There's shock, yes, but also something warmer. 1,000 unspoken things hang between them, apologies, memories, questions that never found answers. Then, almost instinctively, they start walking toward each other, slowly, hesitant but certain. When they finally meet, words don't come right away. The years have changed them both, the wrinkles, the calmness in their voices, the weight of experience. But their eyes carry the same story. A quiet smile appears on Vivian's face first, gentle but knowing. Edward exhales, as if releasing something he's been holding in for years. Vivian, he says softly, the name tasting familiar and foreign at once. She tilts her head, amused by the surprise in his tone. Edward Lewis, she replies, her voice steady, her smile touching the corners of her eyes. You look the same. Maybe a little wiser. He laughs lightly, that same quiet laugh she remembers, warm and careful. And you, he says, look like someone who won the world. For a moment, they just stand there, watching each other. Not as strangers, not as old lovers, but as two people who once changed each other's lives and somehow found their way back to the same point again. Around them, the gala continues and music swells. Waiters pass, conversations flow, but for them, the world shrinks to this one small corner of the room. Vivian gestures toward a quieter spot near the balcony. And they walk together, the crowd parting like a curtain. Outside, the night is calm. The city glows below, endless and alive. The same view they once shared, though from a different time, a different life. For a long moment, neither speaks. They don't need to. The silence between them feels full, not empty. Finally, she breaks it. I heard you never stopped working, she says softly. And you, he replies, turned your dream into something real. She smiles faintly. Maybe we both did, just separately. The sound of the orchestra drifts through the open doors. There's something bittersweet in the melody, a reminder of what was, and maybe what still could be. Edward glances at her, his expression softer now. It's strange, he says quietly. I came here tonight thinking it would be another event I'd forget by morning. And now, she asks. Now, he says with a half smile. I think I'll remember this one. Vivian looks at him for a long second, then turns her gaze toward the city. The wine moves her hair gently, the lights reflecting in her eyes. Some memories, she says, don't really leave. They just wait for us to come back. And as the music rises behind them, the camera pulls back, the balcony glowing against the skyline. Two figures standing side by side, framed by the quiet heartbeat of Los Angeles. Not reunited lovers yet, not lost strangers either, just two souls rediscovering a chapter they never finished. The night drifts into silence, long after the gala has ended. The city outside glows faintly, and the sound of laughter from the ballroom fades into memory. Edward and Vivian walk slowly through the quiet hallways of the hotel, not side by side, but close enough that their steps find a rhythm again. It's strange how familiar it feels, like no years have passed at all. Yet, beneath the calm surface, something stirs, a weight of years, choices, and things left unsaid. They reach the hotel garden, where strings of soft lights hang over marble benches and the scent of jasmine lingers in the air. The world feels smaller here, wrapped in gentle quiet. Vivian stops near a fountain, the sound of water breaking the silence. Edward stands beside her, watching the ripples dance in the dim light. For a long moment, neither speaks. It's not awkward, it's careful. Like both are afraid that words might break something fragile. Edward's gaze lowers. He takes a slow breath before speaking. I thought of you more times than I can admit. There were days when I'd wake up in some hotel suite, in some city I barely remembered, and wonder where you were. If you were happy, he pauses, his voice quieter. I guess I didn't have the courage to find out. Vivian smiles faintly, but there's sadness behind it. You always had courage, Edward. You just didn't always use it for yourself. He looks at her then, and the years seem to melt away. You were the brave one, he says. You walked away. I had to, she replies. If I stayed, I would have lost the part of me you made me believe I had. Her words linger, tender and sharp all at once. The fountain splashes softly, and the world holds still for a moment. The past is no longer just memory. It's alive between them, breathing, waiting to be understood. Edward sits on the edge of the fountain, hands clasped, eyes distant. I married once, he says quietly. Didn't last long. I thought I could fill the silence with something else. But it turns out, silence has a name. Vivian's expression softens. We all try to fill the quiet, she says. I did too. I tried to forget you, to move on, to rewrite the story. But the truth is, you were never the ending. You were the beginning of who I became. He looks at her, surprised. The honesty in her voice hits him like a wave. You changed me, she continues. Back then, I didn't even know what I was worth. You made me see it, not with gifts or promises, but with the way you looked at me. I used that. I carried it. And maybe that's why I could become who I am now. Edward exhales, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. You think too kindly of me. Vivian shakes her head gently. No, I just finally understand you. They sit in silence again, but this time it feels different, less heavy, more human. The air between them softens, carrying something that feels like forgiveness. Not the spoken kind, but the quiet one that lives in shared understanding. The wind shifts, carrying faint echoes of city noise. Edward glances at his watch, then at her. It's late, he says, though his tone lacks conviction. He doesn't want to leave, not yet. Vivian nods slowly, sensing the same hesitation. She stands, brushing the folds of her dress. I should go, she says softly. Big day tomorrow. Always something to do. Always, he repeats, almost to himself. As she turns to leave, he calls her name. Vivian, she stops, half-turned, her eyes catching his under the warm glow of the garden lights. Do you ever think, he asks, that maybe we were never meant to end? Maybe we just paused too long. Her gaze softens, but she doesn't answer right away. Instead, she walks back a few steps, close enough that he can see the emotion flickering in her eyes. Maybe, she says, we just had to live a little more to understand what it really means. They stand there, two souls shaped by time, by choices, by the ache of what might have been. The distance between them feels thinner now, not gone, but smaller. The night hums quietly around them, carrying their silence like a promise unfinished. Vivian finally steps back, offering a small, wistful smile. Good night, Edward. He watches her walk away, her figure fading into the soft shadows of the garden. And when she's gone, he stays there, listening to the sound of water and the memory of her voice. For the first time in years, he feels something he'd almost forgotten, hope. As the camera drifts upward, the city stretches out beneath the night sky, endless, glowing, alive. Somewhere in that sea of light, two hearts that once collided now move again, slowly, uncertainly, toward something they never stopped believing in. Morning breaks softly over Los Angeles. The city glimmers beneath a pale sky, wrapped in gold and silver light. A new day rises, but for Edward and Vivian, it feels more like an echo of something once lost and now found again. The world is awake, but they both move through it as if caught in the slow pulse of memory. Edward sits by the window of his penthouse, a cup of untouched coffee cooling beside him. The city stretches out below, alive and endless. Yet, for the first time in a long while, he doesn't see the buildings or the traffic. He sees her, that moment in the garden, the look in her eyes, the weight of everything they didn't say. He had spent years building walls around his life, walls made of deals, dinners, and perfectly controlled days. But one evening with her, and the silence behind those walls began to crack. Across town, Vivian is in her foundation office, but her thoughts wander too. Papers lie forgotten on her desk, and the sounds of phones and chatter fade to a distant hum. She stares at the morning light spilling through her window, soft and forgiving. There's warmth in her heart, not the wild rush of youth, but something steadier, deeper. For years, she built her world on independence, on never needing anyone again. But now she realizes something she hadn't before. Strength doesn't mean being alone. Sometimes it means having the courage to let someone back in. Later that afternoon, a soft rain begins to fall. The city slows. Vivian steps outside, no umbrella, just the sound of water against her skin. She smiles faintly. The rain reminds her of that night long ago, the one that started it all. Life has a strange way of repeating itself, she thinks, only this time the woman standing in the rain isn't waiting to be saved. She's simply waiting to be honest. At the same moment, Edward is in his car, parked near the same block where everything once began. The street looks different now, newer, cleaner, but the feeling in the air is the same. He gets out, walking slowly under the rain. The world feels quiet, almost suspended. Then, through the mist, he sees her. Vivian turns, and there he is, standing across the street, just like years ago. The sight makes her heart stutter, but she doesn't move. She only watches him, the corners of her mouth lifting into a small, knowing smile. He takes a step forward, then another, until they stand face to face in the rain, history melting between them. No words at first, just silence and the sound of raindrops hitting the pavement. Then Edward finally speaks, voice low but certain. "You once told me you wanted the fairy tale." Vivian's smile deepens, though her eyes glisten. "And you told me you didn't believe in them." He nods, his hair damp, his suit darkened by rain. "Maybe I didn't then. Maybe I was afraid too." He pauses, searching her face. "But I do now." As she looks at him, really looks, and in that gaze are all the years they lost, the chances they missed, and the hope that somehow survived through it all. "Edward," she says softly, "we can't go back." He shakes his head. "I don't want to go back. I just want to start again." The rain falls harder now, but neither of them moves to leave. It's as if the world itself has stepped aside to give them this one moment, the moment when fear finally gives way to truth. Vivian breathes out slowly, her hand trembling slightly as she reaches up, brushing a drop of rain from his cheek. "You always did know how to show up dramatically," she teases, a spark of the old Vivian flickering through. He laughs, that deep, genuine laugh she remembers. "Some things don't change." She studies him quietly, then says, "And some things do." "We're not the same people anymore, I know," he says. "That's why it might actually work this time." The words hang between them, fragile but real. Vivian's eyes glisten with tears that the rain quickly hides. She takes a breath, then nods, as if surrendering not in defeat but in peace. "You really haven't lost your timing," she whispers. Edward smiles, soft and sure. "Neither have you." And then, without grand gestures or music swelling too loud, they simply step closer to people older, wiser, standing in the rain not as who they were, but as who they've become. The kiss isn't rushed or desperate. It's quiet, real. A promise finally kept. The city hums around them cars, lights, rain, but none of it feels intrusive. The world seems to exhale. Love, after all, doesn't vanish. It waits. It hides in memories, in laughter, in the corners of what-ifs, and sometimes, if you're lucky, it finds its way back when you finally learned how to hold it.